Welcome to Chief Speaks.
All music performed and produced by Yuya.
Enlightenment and transformation. Enlightenment comes from allowing yourself to journey through the dark shadows of death, the primordial abyss of wisdom's waters. For it is the treasures and mysteries that lie wait in the dark that transform us and propel us to a new enlightened state. One should neither aspire to live in the light nor the dark, but should journey between the two in order to evolve the overall reality into a self-actualized creation. Knowledge is your light as wisdom is your darkness. The bold interplay of the two in your life leads you to an enlightened understanding of yourself and the universe you've created. Male is your enlightenment. Female is your transformation. Child is your evolution. Woman, accept the light into your darkness so it may enlighten you. Man, bring your light boldly into the darkness so that it may transform you. Enlightenment and transformation.
I love you so much because you just don't know what you've just done for me. Thank you so much.
Wow. This is like the best call I've had in ages on BTR.
So this show was meant for me to be able to hear today. And I'm so thankful.
That's his home.
For now, a new pathway has now been cut in order to get to the Almighty, where there may not have been one. So the communication with them, if they have enough power and strength to talk to us, the communication will be very blissful.
That's one of the reasons I don't get into the current events thing too much, because it starts to become a perpetual alarm clock that we just keep hitting snooze on. I speak to the ascended masters, quote unquote. I talk about spiritual stuff, but I also speak about some very practical, we can do today things.
Be as natural as you can be with your spiritual. You can't always go by your feelings, because your feelings are corrupted. Your feelings are just as corrupted as everything else, your chakras and everything else. You got to know what's beyond you, and that's why we have elders. We can't do everything. You can't get everything out of books or a weekend certification. You can have the most powerful, ancient, oldest, most, as far as you know, truthful tradition in your hands. And if you still have a dirty spirit, you're not going to get anything out of it. You're not going to learn anything. You're not actually going to grow. I try to teach in a way where I make myself obsolete. That's always been my goal, to make myself obsolete.
I really wanted to, kind of big you up. I think you're awesome.
There's a lot of elders out here right now that want to know what's going on. They're not getting on Twitter and stuff like that, but they want to be up on the new stuff. Sit down and have some conversations with them. It's not always about hearing their story. It's also about being news reporters for them and letting them know, like, yeah, this is what's happening right now. They may tell you something about what happened in Charleston that you couldn't even. Your spirituality has to create same spiritual family. Okay, and that family exists first inside of you. You have to express the different expressions of that rainbow coalition of spirits inside of you first. Okay, don't let communities hijack that rainbow. The problem is, when we come into the conscious community, the dudes are doing the same thing that the women are doing.
I just want to say that I really enjoy your show every Sunday, and my friend and I call it going to church. When we call in, we'll be like, "You going to church?" And I'm like, "Where have y'all been at?"
God cannot go against its own truth. So anytime you have an inkling that God is going against its own truth, then God is no longer behaving as God. So therefore, the spiritual community doesn't recognize God. You dig where I'm coming from? Or can we have a new thought? Can we step outside of the books for a second and have a new conversation about hair weaves and wigs? Can we have a new conversation about homosexuality? Can we have a new conversation about vegan eating? It's a good day for exorcism.
Peace. Welcome everyone to Chief Speaks. This is Chief Yuya, and you, of course, are listening to Enlightenment and Transformation. I want to welcome all of you who are tuning in, of course, for the first time, and those of you who are long time and long-standing, I guess we could say, listeners. I want to welcome you as well to the set. Of course, we've been building on concepts surrounding authority on our Chief Speaks, and as expected, we're going to continue in that direction building on authority. Before we get into that, I just want to give those who would like to call in the call-in number for the show. And the call-in number is 515-605-9862. Again, that's 515-605-9862. All right. And again, like I said, I want to welcome you all. This is Chief Yuya speaking. And that's especially for you Sadulu House students. I want to welcome you. I see there's been a lot of action, or I should say activity, on the website as of late, which is awesome. I'm glad you all are getting into your studies and gearing up for this summer solstice that we have coming up. When the energy is it's nice and high, nice and high. So I'm glad to see that everyone is kind of gearing up and getting themselves together and finally getting on top of the training that they've been wanting to do all this time. I know there's so many things that come into our world, or more exact, that we bring into our world, that a lot of times pull us away from what it is that we would like to do, or what it is that we proclaim to like to do. So, it's always a good thing when we can kind of buckle down and get on the work. So, kudos to you all, who have really been digging in and knocking it out, digging in, knocking it out, kudos to you all. But yeah, and, I'm going to have to give a little disclaimer. I know we're only 6 minutes in, and usually everyone files in around 20 minutes. I wasn't sure how much of this show I'd be able to get through this dawning. I pretty much, my voice, I lost a lot of my voice last night, and I lost it for good reason, for great reason. In fact, my youth, my beautiful, beautiful, beautiful youth, he won his first fight, his first Golden Gloves fight, first fight of his career. He won it, flushed out decision last night, 5-0, all in his favor, his very first fight. So I lost my voice from uh, hollering instructions and directions from the corner last night, and just from just hollering and elation. So proud of that big head boy. So due to that, my voice is a little shout out, but like I said, it's a good shout out, so we'll go as far as I can go. And if I start whispering, then we'll pick up on we'll pick up on it tomorrow. All right. So yeah, just give thanks for the young warrior. He's still knocked out, but he's getting some well-deserved rest. And then we start back in the lab tomorrow. So, I give thanks to Jakuta Ray, the stone thrower. It's one of our terms for Shango, because, the lightning and the stones was being thrown last night for sure, during the match, so I'm just very proud, very, 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 very proud, to see, a legacy being continued and being embraced, with joy, because with my youth, I don't necessarily, I don't put demands in terms of following any footsteps or anything like that, because we all come for our own mission. But it's beautiful when they see something, or you expose them to something, and they kind of take to it, and you might see something in them to say, well, hey, they might even take it further than I may have taken it. So it's a great thing. And thank you everyone for your words of congratulation. I see you in the chat room. Thank you. I know I'm talking a little, my energy is a little a little low, because the crew wanted to go and celebrate last night, and despite my admonitions that I had to do Chief Speaks in the dawning, and you know, yeah, but Baba, I'm a champ though. Baba, I won though. Who can say that at my age? Because he's very young to have fought, and he fought a guy who had several fights under his belt already. And my hat goes off also to the other young man. You know, because man, he was a feisty something. He was a feisty something, and I got a little nervous for my boy for a minute, just for a quick second. But my child is almost Shango, so one thing about them, they're a little cocky, a little arrogant, a little cocky. You hit them and it refocuses them, makes them kind of, oh, you ain't gonna hit me, embarrass me in front of all these people. So I saw that the meanness come out. He had got a good little left hook on him, and then my youth just readjusted, and tore that boy up, tore him up. But again, my love goes out to that young man as well, uh, for giving us the opportunity, and also for everything that he put into the fight, because it was definitely a battle, but you know hey man, we shut him out. So yeah, it's a good time, so like I said, I'm moving a little bit slow this morning, because driving around, a vehicle full of young folks still pumped and with adrenaline, and running up on people, showing them their medals and trophies last night. But I was honored and proud to be the chauffeur, the chauffeur in them through the city, and doing all the training, and the last couple of days too. We had to cut weight, so we've been doing a lot of running and stuff like that, and so yeah, much needed rest. But so yeah, we've been talking about authority uh, for all of these segments, and not all of them, but of course, Last Strong. And you know that this month, every month, we come in with a new topic, and this month's topic is we're dealing with authority, and something even interesting that I had shared with my youth, because um, a family that ritualizes together stays together. So we had done some work prior to. And one of the things that I kept pressing upon him is impose your will. Don't be so reactionary. Just understand that you are the Oba, you are the Alafin. You bring the law. So if the law establishes that you will always be victorious, then you're allowed to own that. You're allowed to own, or really not own, but delegate any of the power that Chango has, because you're born out of that lineage. You see, the delegation of power is what we call authority. You see, it's the ability to know certain things and be able to speak to those certain things. And there are multiple streams of authority in that sense. So one of the things that I had shared with him was that you have the authority. You have the authority. Excuse me. You have the authority to say, all of the investment or all the inheritance that comes to Omo Shango, I can own that, because I am in alignment with that lineage. You see, I come from that lineage. So it's not necessary. It's not just that I have the power of Chango. It doesn't work that way. A lot of times we say, we might even say something like, knowledge is power, right? But of course, many of you far enough now to know that knowledge is not power. Spoken knowledge and action, applied knowledge, um, gives an individual the authority to wield power. Okay, so applied knowledge is authority. Okay, so in the same instance, there's so many different streams that we come from. Me being Omo Ogun and Omo Ifa, it doesn't mean necessarily that I was born with the authority of Ogun. You see, it means that I was born with the innate knowledge of Ogun, and then I had to learn. I had to convert the truth. I mean, I'm sorry, that knowledge into truth. You see, and then speak to that truth. And then once I was able to speak to that truth, I gained the authority of Ogun, which now allowed me to pull from the power. You see, so you cannot pull from the power unless you have the authority first. Okay, so that's number one. And so many of us have different streams that we come from, and not even just as I'm speaking about in terms of Orisha, but excuse me, some of us, I'm running through this coconut water. I should have got a case. But so many of us have also a lineage or a stream that also comes from our family inheritance, our physical, worldly and earthly family inheritance, and our ability to speak to that, or to gain or pull authority from that, speaks to power. You see, so um, like I said, there's certain things that you have. So one of the things that I explained to him yesterday, as we were preparing, was that I said, um, everyone has a different movement and a different way that they work. Don't do necessarily. You may not necessarily have what I have. Even at that age, I was much bigger. So my thing was just brute strength. I'm gonna punch a hole through you. I'm gonna punch your head back behind you. It was just I'm a tank. I'm gonna come at you like that. But I said your thing is skill, your finesse, you slick. You smooth. You got that. Muhammad Ali is his absolute hero. He's Ali. I'm sure he wish he could be adopted by the Ali family. But so that's his ultimate. So I said, that's almost Shango as well. So I said, the thing there is that you look at Ali. Ali didn't have any great knockout power, even though we always see that picture of him standing over Sonny Liston. But that was just because Sonny Liston really kind of pissed him off. you know, but but Sonny Liston was an Ogun, just a big, strong, slow brute. But I said your thing is skill, your thing is strategy. So own that. Okay, own that. Now that you know about that, you know that of Shango. You know that is some of the traits of Shango. So now you can now speak to that. Embrace the truth of that. Embrace it. Embrace everything that comes with it and speak to that. Speak that language. You don't have to speak knockout language, killer language, but speak your strategy language, you see? And then that will give you the authority to tap into that ashe, or tap into that power, you see? So it's the truth, understanding the truth of the characteristics of a particular space or of a particular force or a particular entity allows us to now speak to that, and then allows us to tap into the power of that. You can't tap into the power of it without that. You can't. It's impossible. Okay, so it's very important to understand that, as we're as we're moving forward, to understand that how we're actually pulling this power, because I know so often, and primarily because what's handed to us so often, we have misunderstandings of where our power comes from, or how our power is controlled, or how our power is manifested. And again, primarily because people will teach us things in order to distract us or detract us from our power, to try to disempower us, you see. So here's a simple way also to get this. You've heard me say in other instances that spirit doesn't necessarily do anything. You need a corporeal reality. You need a body to actually move something, to push something, to get something done, even though spirit may be the motivator, or spirit may give you insight as to how to get things done. There's a certain intellect and intelligence that can come from spirit, you see. But excuse me. But in effect, It is the body, it's the corporeal reality that's required and needed to actually get things done. You see? So if you can look at it like this, if you look at the relationship between authority and power, a very simple way to understand that is a relationship between the head and the body. Okay. The head represents the seat of authority, the body represents the seat of power. Okay, real simple. All right. The head is the seat of your authority, the body is the seat of your power. Right. So if you understand that, then you understand that in order to move the body, the head has to give a command. Right. So in order to move power, the mind or the head or the ori has to command it to do so. It doesn't work the other way around. You don't just claim the power of the body and say, okay, now I'm powerful. It doesn't, you can't do it that way. It has to start from the head and work its way through. Okay. So we start to understand even the relationship. I did a show recently on destiny, and really owning and learning how to own and shape one's destiny. Now, in that, you start to see that, okay, so in shaping your destiny, there's so much that comes from the head. That's why we see, Orumilai, Larry Pin, witness to all creation, witness to one's destiny. You see, because I'm creating my thoughts, I'm creating my path in the head first, and then I'm sending out through there. I'm sending out into the body, right? Well, there's so many different forms of what the body represents. There's so many different forms of what the consciousness represents, and there's so many different forms of consciousness, you see. But ultimately, again, the movement of walking and owning your authority comes through first lineage. However that lineage is defined. I know I'm talking like alfalfa now. Please excuse me. I'm cracking all over the place. That sounds like I'm going through puberty. But so however it's defined, um it's defined first through your lineage because it's handed to you. You see, so how is one of the ways that we know it's handed? Because knowledge is handed, knowledge is passed through, knowledge is passed down. You see, knowledge is passed down. One of the beautiful things that we often acknowledge about many of our indigenous traditions is that there's a rich oral history. You see, because you start to understand it's not just about some old man sitting on a log and saying, all right, children, everyone gather around, let me teach you this or teach you that. It's not necessarily just about that, but it's about the relationship, the value of the connectedness, the value of the entire experience that happens when you have someone handing you something, someone serving as a jegna to you, someone serving as an elder to you. You have an entire experience that goes on there. Okay, so that's a part of the handing down of authority, you see, or the handing down of knowledge, which allows one to tap into the higher authority or the greater authority in that sense. So again, we start to see here that what is given by kneeling, which is one of the terms that we say in our Yoruba, is most auspicious. What is given while kneeling? Well, think about a lot of times if you look at the relationship between yourself, or at least the relationship that should exist in a normal society. Um, hold on a sec. What'd you say? Okay, all right. So you're gonna wear that medal all day around your neck. You slept in that medal? You put it on the pillow. The boy put his golden gloves medal on the pillow next to him. All right. All right, boy. You earned it. You earned it. All right. Okay. All right. Go ahead. Y'all have fun. All right. So, oh boy, he earned it. He earned it. He's allowed to do whatever he wants. Slept with the medal. Hey, he won a championship, so why not? But so excuse me, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know that was I diverted. um, so again, we look at what comes from the what's handed down, okay, and what's handed down, what's received in that form, is what we utilize to gain our authority. So I'm gonna explain this even in the sense sometimes when we look at initiations, right? And for those of you who may be a bit foreign or just maybe a bit alien to some of the culture and would like to learn a little bit more, um, a lot of times when you're looking at indigenous traditions, you hear people speak about their lineage, who initiated them. I was initiated by this person, and that person was initiated by that person. That person I've initiated into this lineage or into that lineage. You see, and the significance there is we're looking at what has been handed down through the lineage. You see, that's the key. What has been handed down through the lineage. You see, so it's not just this person has notoriety or that person has notoriety. Where are their roots? Where do their roots back up from? You see, how far back do they and not just how far back, but who's sitting at the center of it? Because then we get a sense of the authority that you actually have based on your lineage. You see, because remember, we spoke about last strong authority being the authoring concept, the author. So who is the original author? So let's say, for instance, um, years from now, when I'm either completely discontent with teaching or maybe may not have the mental capacity or the wherewithal to teach anymore, or I'm just no longer here, uh, it will be my youth who will carry this information forward. And my youth have a vested privilege and a vested right to carry this information forth, because it's been handed to them just through our lineage. You see, so if my youth come on and say, okay, now I'm going to speak about Orisha, I'm going to speak about the 14 keys and so forth and so on, um, they can, and you say, well, what gives you the right to speak on that? What gives you the authority to speak on something like the 14 keys or whatever, whatever, whatever? One has the possibility to say, or they have the possibility to say, well, because it was given to us, it was taught to us by our Baba. You see, so as a result, now we have the authority to speak on this because it was given down through lineage. You see, and they may not have necessarily the authority to speak on other things. You see, they may not have even the power to affect the principles of other things. So again, in order to affect the power or to wield the power of something, you have to have authority. Excuse me. You have to have authority over that thing. You see, and you gain authority by learning the truth of that thing. That's why, again, when we get initiated, let's say someone again gets initiated to Chango, somebody gets initiated to Oya, someone gets initiated to Oshun. A lot of times, especially because these concepts and these thoughts and those different energies have become so widespread in terms of how we how they're talked about on YouTube and different podcasts. It's almost become like, at least in the cultural collectives, it's almost become like everyday language. you know if someone is um violent, or they think they're tough, or they like to lift weights, yeah, that's that Ogun coming out. If someone thinks that they're really loving, or they're really sweet, or they just like to dress up, yeah, I'm Omo Oshun. Well, they won't even say Omo because they don't even usually know that much to say. They'll say I'm a child of Oshun. We could just go right on through it. Someone's a drummer with a bunch of kids. Yeah, that's that Shango. If someone says, like, they argue all the time, can't seem to get along with people, you always hear the same thing. Well, I'm Oya, right? But see, you're not wielding the power of those particular archetypes. You don't wield the power just by seeing certain characteristics within yourself and then saying, okay, that's me. You don't wield the power in that sense. You know, you wield the power by understanding the truth of those characteristics. You see, by understanding, and then the truth of those characteristics is given to you by someone handing you the knowledge. You see, so there's a sacred doing my alfalfa thing. There's a sacred um process that happens that sometimes we skip over, so because we're so quick to want to own something, and we want to take shortcuts. So we see certain characteristics within ourselves and we'll say, "Oh, I'm just this," or I'm that, right? As opposed to understanding, no, there's a reason why these things are handed to you the way they are. There's a reason why we have things such as initiations. Okay, there's a reason why we have things such as consecrations, and we have spirit guides and spirit fathers and spirit mothers, and all of those different things like that, because it's not just about the logistics of saying, okay, I'm going to read a book or I'm going to meditate on something. And because I believe it to be this, that's what it is. And now I have the power of this particular force or whatever. Sure, you may access certain aspects of that particular force, but you will never have authority to actually wield the power of that force. And there's a difference between having authority and being able to emulate what seems to be something. If you all check out, it may have been the Arumula show that I did some time ago, excuse me, and I spoke about emulated or indiscriminate emulation, in a sense where, Arumila's son, he put on the I'm making it short for those of you who've already heard it. I'm making this story short, but he essentially put on all the vestments and all the garments of Arumila and the brass slippers and everything. And there was a time of year where all his sons would have to come to him and they would pay him tribute, because Arumila was the high chief at that time. And all of his sons would pay him tribute, but there was one who wouldn't, because he said, listen, I have this, I have that, I have the shoes, I have the crown. I look just like you, so why should I have to bow to you? I appear to be just like you. And Umimila said, cool, no problem. Go do your thing, basically, because you're the king now, so go be the king. And of course, it backfired. And the son, he had problems in his land, and it was drought, and his wife was riffing with him. I'm making the story short. And it was all these different issues. And then he had to come back. He realized, I have trespassed against my father. And he came back and he said, Father, I'm sorry. I thought, because, and he ran down the list, I thought because I had this and I had that and I had that and I had that, I was the king. And then his pops was basically a room, and it was like, nah, it takes more than some brass slippers, player. Fall back, play your position. So, and then of course everything was restored after that. So you start to get the understanding that indiscriminatory emulation is not the path to power. Just because you can look like something or act like something, or you see some of those traits of that thing within your own self, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're an owner of those particular principles or of those particular keys. It doesn't necessarily mean that. You see, you have to have that knowledge given to you first. You see, and then once that knowledge is given to you, then there's a truth that arises in you. You see, and and a lot of times the truth arises between the knowledge that's given to you and your authority, your body's resistance to what's given. You see, so let's say you have something rising up from the body and you have something descending from the mind, and they meet in the middle and they have a little war. That's the war within. And then the result of that war within is the truth that emerges. You see, and through that truth, you'll find your particular lane of power for whatever energy or whatever we're talking about that you can actually utilize. So I'll give you an example. I'm going to use my youth again. Okay. So us having different body types, um, and essentially different gifts. We have different, our bodies are going to say something different. Okay. So I could be teaching and giving the knowledge of the martial sciences and teaching how to slip a punch, teaching how to counter punch, how to bob and weave, how to work on your head movement, your foot movement, so forth. Everything, your breathing, and all the different things that we do during, training. But the reality is, there's a moment where it kicks in where you also have to be sensitive to what your power base is telling, because your power is in your power is manifested through your body. It doesn't originate there, but it's manifested through there. So my body may move differently than another person's body, you see. So that's the lower part that ascends. So it's very similar to, I was reading something years ago, that Nick Dundee, which one of Muhammad Ali's trainers, and he was being asked questions about, someone at that level and training someone at that level, like what was training like how did you, essentially get him to do the things that you wanted him to do and so forth. And he said, no, we didn't do any of that. He said, if Ali wanted to run today, we ran. If he wanted to do some focus mitt training, we did focus mitt, or some speed training or some head, whatever he wanted to do was what we did. And I always thought that was profound in a certain sense, because Ali wasn't Muhammad Ali, of course I'm speaking about, for those of you tuning in late, was an individual who had that level of mastery. Where he said, no, I know what my head is telling me. I've learned how to control my body at this point. That's why he was one of the very few fighters who could actually call out what a match was going to be before the match started. He'd tell you what he was going to do and in which round he was going to knock the person down. You see, that takes that Chango ability of being able to impose your will. Shango is an energy like Ali, where at any moment, or even like Michael Jordan, how he was in his prime, I can shut this thing down at any moment if I so choose. You see, the imposition of will. Not all energies necessarily have that. So by understanding that and learning that, then you learn how to work with it. So like I said, you may have knowledge being descended from the crown. You're being taught certain things. Okay, this is how we do this. This is how we do that. But then there's also an energy rising up from the soles of your feet through your lower half that's saying, well, this is how we do this, because it's a natural reaction. Well, this is actually how you step. This is how you block. This is how you do this. This is how you move. This is what your shoulder movement looks like. This, da, da, da. And then in between the two of those lies the truth. You see, so it's a lot of times what we find in the community is that individuals only have that one side where they have what's coming up from the corporal reality, which they're using as a basis to tell them what they are. I feel like this, so therefore I am this. You see, now I'm going to give you another idea on this. Not an idea. I'm going to give you another truth on this, and this part is the most dangerous part of what I'm saying. This is where it gets a little ugly. Okay, so essentially, if we understand that power is manifested in this reality through our corporeal existence, but authority is manifested through our higher consciousness, right? So we understand that higher consciousness delegates authority to power in order to manifest it. Hopefully everyone's with me on that one, right? So I'm not in a live room. Normally, I can say, everybody got that? And I see all the heads nod. So hopefully that's understood, right? So we have that aspect of it. Now, what happens next is entities that don't necessarily have a connection to a lineage, a divine lineage. Now, when I'm speaking about divine lineage, I'm speaking about a connection to the soul, an ancestral connection that links it back into the soul realm. Okay? Energies that have been formulated and founded here in the corporate reality, which are really transient energies, basically the soulless people, the soulless folk, okay, who don't necessarily have that connection do not have the ability to wield power. Because power, in order to wield power, what do you need? Well, you need authority. How do you get authority? You get authority through spiritual, and genetic lineage. That's how you acquire authority. You see, it's very similar. That's why a lot of times when you look into this society, excuse me, when you look into the society, you have a lot of situations where certain things that are used as symbols and emblems of authority utilize and pull from ancient symbolism. So you look at your six-pointed stars that your policing agents use, and then you'll find that same six-pointed star within your old indigenous mythology. I mean, you even find it in Islam where you look at the Sharif. The Sharif was who? The Sharif was Allah's enforcer. Well, that word Sharif just became sheriff. And what does the sheriff have on his badge? The gold six-pointed star. Look at the badge, boy. You see? So you start to understand that. And in order to gain power in this reality, there are certain individuals who have had to try to co-opt the lineage of other groups of individuals. I know this is where it gets ugly. It gets ugly. If you can really kind of, as I'm speaking, if you can almost close your eyes for a moment and just think about, not if you're driving, but if you could just think about this, if you think about where you've seen this played out before, where individuals with little to no history have actually co-opted the history and the ethnic, even the ethnic trauma of another group of people. So they begin to take on to front in a sense, or begin to blaspheme. Really, that's what it really is, really blasphemous. But they become a bastard version of, or bastard branch of, someone else's lineage in order to tap into that lineage's authoritative power. You see, because without that, they have no ability to manifest anything on the planet. Nothing, 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 nothing. You have to have a connection to lineage. Like, just like when you look at Kemet or any other ancient system, if you cannot in some way trace your lineage, and when I say lineage, whether it be someone who taught, maybe someone taught your great grandfather something, who comes from that line, from that Nubian line, and or your great 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 grandfather and grandmother, and then they gave it to finally it got to you, and it may be only one truth. Maybe they only had two or three things left to give you by the time it went down the lineage. But those things you actually own now because of the way that they were given. You see, now, if you have a history that's been cut and it's been severed because you've killed the mother, right? That's the science of Ochosi shooting his arrow, killing his own mother, right? So if you've severed the mother, if you've killed the mother, and again, a lot of times this is done, it's important to understand that this is done that purposely. It's done perfect. A lot of times you guys will hear me giggle and stuff when I'm speaking about some of this stuff. I want you to know that it's yeah, I think my voice is it's breaking down. I want you to know that it's not because I'm sadistic. Sometimes I giggle at some of these things because it's like pulling the covers back from someone who thinks they're hiding. And your warrior work happens in so many different ways. Of course, there's a physical aspect, there's a mental aspect, there's an emotional aspect, there's a spiritual aspect, but there's nothing like it's a feeling of joy when, for me personally, when number one, when I'm able to defeat some of the bullyism, because I can't stand bullies, some of the bullyism that happens to my people, as a result of being produced from an oppressive society. But there's a joy that comes when I'm expressing my love. You see, so this teaching and sharing like this is when like I said, when I was younger and I first got into it, I got conscious because of hate. I had such a great disdain and detest for what had been done to my people that all I was about was, evening up the score, however that looked. I'll leave that at that. So as I matured and grew a little bit older, you go through your own process, and I developed a great love for my people. It wasn't just about my people were bullied and this was taken and this was snatched and that's messed up, and we need to do this and that because you can't be pushing us, don't even be pushing us around, and we'll push back. It was more based on that. But then later it becomes a thing where you get beyond the emotion, to a degree. It's always there on some level, but you get beyond the emotion, and you're able to sit down and say, you know what, if I can explain these things that I'm so upset about, if I could cool it down for a second and actually honestly learn how to speak and explain things so that my people can understand them, then wow, I would probably gain more ground doing that than anything else. You see, so when you come into that realism and you get to that point where you're breaking down things in a way like what I just finished saying to you, when you start breaking it down in a way and you're like, you can feel it within yourself, they're getting this. Because as an empath, you can touch and feel people, even though you're not near them. So sometimes you hear that little giggle come out, and I'm like, aha, good, you got it. You know, um, I'm a warrior. So, and like I said, there's different ways to war, and I want you all to get it, because the more I build in you, the more I destroy in them. You can't build without destroying. You can't destroy without building. You see, so as long as the building and the destruction is purposeful, then you'll get a lot done. So that's where that comes from. So again, going back to what I was saying, and I just wanted to share that because some people may be listening saying, "What?" Sometimes he talks about certain things, you hear little giggles and stuff. It's joy coming out. Believe it or not, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I spoke about that the other day. To enjoy, enjoying is to make gratitude or to make joy, to make something joyous. So I've learned to enjoy um, the nerdy part of this journey. You see, I learned to even enjoy that when I was much younger. Um, I enjoyed more the physical part and banging heads and that whole thing. And there was a certain high that came from you know bloodying somebody up or getting bloodied up. You know, there was I enjoyed that. I'm enjoying transitioning as you get older, your warrior stance has to change. I enjoy the transitions and the movements of the ministry of our work that we all go through in life, where you start to learn different ways to do things and stuff. It's like you open up a new chamber. So it's almost like you pull back covers for yourself and you say, I can do this too. I didn't know I could speak, or maybe didn't know that I could explain things in a way that people would get it, or I can use my music, or I could use my art, or this or that. And when you feel that level of bliss, or you feel that level of joy, what you're feeling is the presence of your soul's reflection aligning with your spirit right in that very moment. And it's almost hard not to smile. Enjoy, make joy, make gratitude. So essentially, like I said, what I was saying is that once you understand that disembodied people, disembodied spirits, even, but disembodied people with disembodied spirits with no soul connection need those with a soul connection in order to wield power on the planet. You might come to the realization, some of you might come to the realization that, excuse me, essentially, you are empowering your oppressors. And sometimes in certain societies and in certain countries, your oppressors would have you believe that empowering them is your patriotic duty. You see, empowering them is your patriotic duty. You see, so um, once you start to get that realization, I'm telling you, it changes the game for you because you start to look at the systems that are around you much differently. And you might do some certain things or not do certain things, and people will look at you funny, like again, like you're the anomaly. Why can't you just like even last night, whenever there's a fight, they always bring out some chick and she sings the, United States national anthem and all that stuff, and we're supposed to stand up and take our hats off and all. I'm like, me and my whole fam, we on our seats, we still talking right through it, you know, you know, and just going over what we need to do and everything like that. I'm not empowering that. No, because the more I empower it, the more you can do. I know how powerful we are. You ain't getting this. You don't get none of this dope ish. So um, you start to understand that empowering your enemies in an oppressive system becomes legislator. It's legislated to you to empower your enemies. It becomes your patriotic duty, almost in a sense. you know so like I said, it's just very interesting when you start to look at the deeper implications there, because remember, like I said earlier, now here's where we're going to go even uglier with this. And like I said, maybe it's a good thing that I lost my voice last night, because what I'm delivering, maybe it has it has a more felt tip to it. It's like the iron fist inside of the velvet glove. So me losing my voice is like the velvet glove. And it doesn't hit so hard, because what I'm saying actually has some very serious implications, again, for those to hear. And I see I'm sorry, Tareem said, are y'all really seeing the spirit of what Chief is saying, family? Hot fire, wow. And he says, let's get ugly with it, Chief. So um and thank you again. Let me give my mid-show check-ins. Thank you, all of you, again, for your words of congratulations, and peace to, of course, always Sister Michelle, Brother Shaga, Sister Jennifer, Nicole, I Am Divine, the other Nicole, because we got about 3 Nicoles on this show, or in the chat room always come through. Sister Fasay, of course, Sister Marva, always standing tall. Brother Anwar. Wouldn't be a show without Brother Anwar. Sister Nikki Love, Antonio, Shasa, Gina, Sister Madeline, of course, the stick burner guardian. Maybe one day she'll share that science. Sister Ma'at, Sister Gloria, Vivid Eye Publications, Designed Not Defined, Patrice Omozuwati, and of course, Brother Tareem. Peace, peace, peace to you all. And again, thank you. Of congratulations on my youth winning the Golden Gloves. Yeah, so first fight, boy. First fight. Tore that boy up. But anyway, yeah. And sleeping with his doggone medal. I think he slept with it on. I think he's lying, actually. I'm going to let it ride. He said, I slept with it on my pillow. Either way, it's just as weird either way. and then is wearing it still. So he's out in the streets with his Golden Gloves medallion around his neck. That's his outfit. That's what he's wearing with his outfit today. Hey, man. you can't tell someone how to grieve, and you can't tell someone how to rejoice, But yeah, so you start to let's get to this idea of, again, abandoning and boycotting and allowing others to co-opt our power, which comes to allowing them to co-opt our authority. So let's look at something here for a second. Now, this is where it gets where you might not want to hear it too much of it, where the numbers might drop. Remember, as I told you before, look at your head or your ori as your authority, and look at your body as your power. And you could even look at it like your Ori is your head and the Orisha are your body. You see? Oh, I did record it, Brother Tareen. Give thanks. Yeah, yeah, I recorded it. Actually, it was a bunch of people recording. The boy Shango, man. So he brought out a huge crowd. I didn't know that many people were gonna be there just for him, actually. So it was cool. So yeah, we got about there's so many recordings I got to go through them because we got about 6 or 7 different recordings and pictures. There's a another one of the chemistry teachers, Cuban brother, loves him to death, and he's also a photographer. He's an ex bullfighter, actually. He was bullfighting in Cuba back in the days, and so he came with his camera too, and he was like, he was on it. So I'm like, man, normally I'm the one that's got to secure some type of filming or whatever, but everyone they came through strong, you know. Yeah, so yeah, at some point I'll put some of that. I'm still making some decisions. Yeah, I'm kind of a papa bear, so I don't really show my youth to the public like that. But with this one, I don't think I could hold him back anyway. On that Shango, he like that light boy, you know. So someone does something funny. Sometimes people forget through all the joking and stuff that I am actually a voodoo priest. So, I never want to put anyone in a situation because they say or do something inappropriate as it pertains to my family. I never want to have to put them in a situation where I F up their entire life, you know. So, I move slow to some of that stuff like that, but I'll probably release some of the footage, because it was a glorious moment. But anyway, so let's get to the ugly, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's get to it. So again, if we look at the head as our consciousness, right? Our seat of authority, the body is our seat of power, manifested power. Again, I want to make that very clear, manifested power, right? Because power comes through connecting to the soul, not connecting to the body per se. So here's the deal, right? Again, use the idea, the example that I just gave you, basing it on the society that we live in. Now, we live in a society where we're living amongst those who have no soul. If you have no soul, you're unable to connect to the lineage of authority. You have to fake the lineage, like the six-pointed stars or certain ethnic groups co-opting the ethnicity of other groups, co-opting the story, the customs, traditions, even the foods, the days that they would worship on, so forth and so on. The clothing, the hairstyles even of other groups. So once you get that, then you understand, okay, cool. So I got that part. So in order to get power, if I have no soul, I have to co-opt it. Well, and again, like I said, excuse me, family, for talking. I know y'all used to me. Usually around the hour mark is when I ramp up. But I'm trying to make sure the little bit of voice I got left, I want to make sure I get this point out. So I'm moving a little slow. Plus, I could use some rest. So let's look at it in relationship to man and woman for a second. We're gonna bring it back there. Let's just look at it for a minute. Let's think about this. So if the man is the seat of authority, as we spoke about earlier, author is also synonymous with the word father. And the woman is the seat of power and the family, right? Let's look at this. Woman is power, Oduduwa, right? Oduduwa is omnipotency, all the power. So the negative current, even within a battery, the negative polarity of a battery holds all of the power of the battery, but the positive current is actually the leader. There's actually no power inside of the power one. It just directs the negative one where to go. Okay, no different than in male and female relationships. As much as people don't know how to play their own position, this is just the truth and reality of what it is. And hey, let me say this. Side note. Anyone who has ever contacted me and noticed that I wasn't giving you too much energy, it's because you didn't know how to play your position. So I'm just gonna put that out there. I'm just gonna let you know now. All right. I know it's kind of an awkward, weird side note, but those of you who have tried to contact me and came at me funny, this is the reason why I kind of shut you down, because you didn't know how to play your position. So it even goes down as much as, you might meet a man and he's, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. We can't do anything with you. Or you meet a female and as soon as she starts talking to you, she's giving you guidance, she's giving you direction. You need to do this, and I'm this type person and did you ever think about this, ever think about that? See, you find that in a sick society, everything is topsy-turvy. And because we're not, see, this is why I did the show earlier about overlords. Remember, like I always tell you, all of the shows I do, they have there's a sequence, there's a reason why they're in a certain order, so that you can understand certain concepts later. So you hear me speak about overlords and things like that, and you start to understand that perhaps my mind is not my own. And some of the things that I'm doing are based off of what, and matter of fact, maybe if I can find the comment, I'll pull it up, but I'll paraphrase it. Sister Empress on one of the shows is strong. Had made a statement about men objectifying women, right? And she said, in this culture, let me see if I can pull it up, because I don't mind paraphrasing, but I also like to be exact if I can. But she basically said, in this culture, that women are objectified. Well, no, actually, I'm sorry. It wasn't a comment. It was in a group chat, so I won't be able to pull it up. But so she said, women are objectified by men in this culture. So I didn't correct or anything like that. I just said, well, why don't you, I said, give that a little bit more reflection, because there is some points in there that you might want to tweak. I was talking about her overall statement, that there's some little pieces in there that you may be missing, right? Because I'm not always quick to just say, no, that's wrong, it's this. I'm not here to tell you what to think, but if I see you're moving in a direction that's not going to work, or maybe it's not, or maybe your overall statement, it's not adding up to what you think it is. Sometimes your equation is wrong, because the thing is too, I remember I had an instructor many, many years ago, and he said something to me, and it was so doggone true. It's so fulfilling as a prophecy. And he said, when you get around people who really know their stuff, who really know the stuff, he Yoruba priest, by the way, he was like, when you get around people who really know their stuff, he said, when they get around each other and they talk, it just sounds like they're talking about math. And I was like, okay, I could kind of see that, because I had studied a lot of information in Nation of Gods and Earth, and dealing with mathematics a lot. So I was like, yeah, I could kind of see that, but didn't really see totally how it applied to what I was learning at that time. At that time I was dealing a lot with Palo and Palo Mayumbe, and then I was dealing also a lot with the Ifa sciences. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll wait to see it when it happens. But sure enough, years later, I found myself doing the same thing with certain people, because it almost becomes like a universal language. And you start to, after a while, even when people are making certain statements, you just see the equation in the statement, and you can see if the equation adds up to what it's supposed to, or it doesn't. Like, let's say if you have somebody who says something like, well, you know what? I just stay to myself, man, because people make me sick, and they make me just have to go off. Right. So that's just a very basic and easy example for you all. But if you look at that and you just kind of look at the math of the actual statement, the if this is that, therefore this is that, then you'll start to realize, well, that what you just said doesn't actually add up. So sometimes I may say, it's just like a teacher. You bring an equation to the board, you say, I'm done. And they look at the paper and say, no, you're not. Go back and look at it. Now, they're not going to give you the answer because the expansion of your mind and your intellect comes in you working out the problem. But they'll at least let you know you ain't worked it out. You thought you worked it out, but it's not worked out. And you have to have that trust in your teacher to accept that, which is very hard for people. Again, part of the reason why we're talking about what we're talking about now, because of how we perceive one another. And this division has been purposeful. So Sister Empress had left a comment in response to me saying that in a chat recently, and she said, after listening again to this lecture, which I think that was the Looking for Love lecture. She said, after listening again to this lecture, I want to thank you, Chief, for your teachings. I reviewed my objectification statement. I said this culture objectifies females. I will say my culture, this one, does not objectify females. My culture is free from any concept of objectification. I also felt the need to listen to your teaching on self-sabotage and obstructing progress in relation to this topic of love. That was brilliant. See, now what she figured out is what I earnestly work and will for so many other people to figure out. And I drop little hints and nuances sometimes in my speaking, but a lot of times people don't pick up on it because they got recorded messages going off in their brain. So she said, I'm gonna give it to you again if you got it. Because she said, this culture objectifies women, da 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 da. She went forward. And I said, think about what you're saying, tweak that a little bit. Now, she's still not there yet, by the way. So let me tell you that, Sister Empress. You're still missing some parts, but you got a big part. She said, I've reviewed my objectification statement. I said, this culture objectifies female. I will say, my culture, this one does not objectify female. So she was able to make a distinction between, it's just so deep. I'm telling you, I know it sounds so simple, but the simplest things are the deepest things. In that moment, she was able to make a distinction between the culture that was given to her by the dominant society, because it becomes dominant because we empower it and we take on its culture, and the culture that she's chosen for herself. I mean, that was a huge statement of liberation and freedom right in that moment, to say, wait a minute, no, I have a choice. I have another culture. I have my own culture. So if I say that this culture does this, and then now we start to have a conversation surrounding this culture, like I said, a lot of times, and that's why I sound like Yoda when I'm talking now. Sound like Yoda, and we do. So I said, a lot of times what happens is we'll take the larger picture, or the monolithic idea of what culture is, and we'll own it, and then we'll start having conversations and arguments around it, and it has nothing to do with us. That's why with the 14 keys, you see, I say in that book, sometimes we're having cultures about things within an African setting, and we're arguing about something that's non-African, but we don't know it because we don't have a principled or key, like 14 keys, but we don't have a standard, a codex where we could say, wait a minute, let's hold this up against our own keys and see if it matches anything. And if it doesn't match anything, this ain't us. So now we just figured out that we brought a demon into the sacred circle, because this ain't us, what we over here talking about. You see? So you're able to do that when you again have that standard. So she, in that statement, I says it was a huge statement, but usually the biggest things go unnoticed. The biggest things go unnoticed. But she's saying, nope, that's not my culture. This is my culture. So even if I have a problem with, let's say our new culture, let's say if she's saying, when she says my culture, this one, let's just say if she's saying I knew, right? I don't know if she is, but let's just say if it was the case. If she has a problem with our new culture, then she'll speak to that. She'll speak to what she feels and hopes to be refined within that culture, because it's ownership. It's very similar to, like, a lot of times when you go to the continent, anybody who's been to the continent or their homeland, because, I have people here from all over who listen to these segments. So, and there's a distinct difference when you get involved in a cause back home than when you do on foreign land. Back home, you really feel like you can dig your feet in because you have a vested ownership there. You see, so even if you experience something that you don't like, you can say, well, you know what? I'm going to help to refine this situation. I'm going to help to cultivate something better within this culture because I recognize this one as being mine. You see, now, even though I may live somewhere else or live amongst others, that's what they do. And I'm okay with making that distinction. We don't all have to do the same thing. So it's a huge statement that she made, right? Because once you have someone who's seeing things like Sister Empress, this is Empress 2009, by the way, that's her username. As soon as you have people making statements like that, now you can actually work with them because they're shaking free the shackles that the soulless have put on them. Now, when I say the soulless has put on them, or when I say the shackles, excuse me, it's a much deeper statement than one might imagine. All right. Now, I'm going to get deeper into this. I'm just going to take a quick break. And then when I come back, I'm gonna break down to you uh, the ugly part. I mean, it's been a little ugly if you're listening, if you're hearing what I'm saying. But I'm gonna break down to you the ugliest part of the entire thing, which maybe a lot of people are not gonna want to hear. But hey, man, it's what it is. All right, so we'll be right back in a moment. With more of this and more of this self-actualization talk on Chief Speaks. Hang in there. And if you want to call in, ask a question or whatever, again, remember the call-in number is 515-605-9862 and just hit the number 1 and I'll come back to you. And yes, if not, then feel free to put your question in the chat room. So I'll give you this moment now to think about what we said so far. And if you want to think about a question or whatever, you'll have that. I'll be right back. It's your time. Yeah. It's your time. It's your time. It's time. It's your 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 time. Just be the one. The one you would call on. What are you waiting for? Do for yourself. Just be that force. If you can see it now, you'll be self-actualized. What are you waiting for? We are the visionaries. It's your time. It's your time. It's your time. Have you lost your way? It's your time. It's your time. Yeah. It's your. What are you waiting for? Let's think. What is inside of you? What are you? What? Why keep praying? Why keep begging? Stop begging. Why keep waiting? Why only leads to more confusion? So just be. Be that which you call upon. Be that which you wait upon. You are the self-actualized savior. You. Nothing is flying in the sky. Waiting to come and do the work that you came to the planet to do. You be Haru. You be Ma'at. You be Seta. You be Asor. You be Oset. You be Sobek. You be Shango. You be Oshun. You be Yemoja. You be Oduruwa. You be Obatala. You be Iyami. You be Eshu. You be Ogun. You be Oya. You be Nanan Buruko. You be Shiva, you be Apollo, you be Krishna, you be Kepra, you be Ganesha, you be Dionysus, you be Hermes, you be Hanuman, you be Tahuti, you be Anpu, you be Brahma, you be Pan, you be Zeus, you be Vishnu, you be Hercules, you be Kali, you be Kuan Yin, you be Buddha, you be Rudra, you be Christ, you be Krishna, you be Shedewayos, you be Sintala Ndoki, you be Lucero, you be Ilegba, you be Ursuli Danto, you be Ursuli Freda, you be Dambala, you be Ayuedo, you be Labaline, you be Azaka, you be Granbois, you be La Sarine, you be Cindy, you be the Ogan, you be the Mambo, you be Gran Ibo, you be Man Brigitte, you be Baron Samedi, you be Masala Flamble, you be the Petro, you be the Rada, you be Agwe, you be Marasa, you be Orisha Oko, you be Gemini, you be Shu, you be Tefni, you be Geb, you be Nut, you be Set, you be Nebuchadnezzar, you be Kansu, you be Kanu, you be Min, you be Minchu, you be Mut, you be Nefertem, you be Nebuchadnezzar, you be Net, you be the Netcha, you be the Netter, you be the Noon, you be Ptah, you be Amun-Ra, you be Setmet, you be Serket, you be Seshat, you be the Supreme, you be the all-encompassing intelligence, you be the Ori, you be the Ka, you be the Ba, you be Allah, you be the Christ, you be the 13th Zodiac. Go through the center and be. Wow. On this song about self-actualization, I give it to my Ekun. Grandma, you are the glue that keeps both sides of my family together. I'm thankful. Grandpa, you are the consummate Ogun. You are the strength of my family. You are the iron will of my own imagination. I will lose my conscious thought and go into the realm of actualization. All right. And we are back. Welcome back again. You're listening to you're listening to me clear my throat on enlightenment and transformation. And we've been speaking about the concept here of authority. And we've been speaking about sometimes how our authority is co-opted. And I'm, of course, sharing that for those of you who are tuning in a little bit late. And thank you for the heads up on the sound. I hear you say that it was scratchy, and then now it's clear again. When I saw that, I did my little trick, to try to clear it up. But so thank you, fellas and sisters for monitoring that. We appreciate that. Um, oh, and yeah, Tareen, that you asking that where can you get that song? That another one on my hard drive, unfinished music. I was just playing around. No, I'm lying. I was not playing around in the studio one night. I was actually doing libations and just, decided to record it because I thought it would be I was actually going to record that and then give it to students because I thought it would be good. Also because, sometimes to hear some of the names that I call when I'm doing certain things or when I'm calling energies forth, because I don't always call them all on the air and stuff for the purposes of being, being brief, but some of the energies that I like to work with and things like that. So I was going to actually record that and then distribute it, which I guess I still could. Yeah, I guess I still could. But yeah, I think it's just really to invigorate people because sometimes, especially when they're coming into something new, you know, um, especially when it comes to being having to like do work, spiritual work and stuff. Sometimes people are a little bit nervous and stuff. They don't know what names to call. You say, okay, pour libations to your ancestors, and they'll say, anybody? You go through the whole thing. Well, anybody in your bloodline, living or dead, ancestor, dead. Okay. And then, so it's like that hesitation. So sometimes if you can have music that's speaking or someone saying it for you exactly, then you can like emulate them. Like I always say, when in doubt, copy your teacher. Copy your teacher. Copy your teacher. So that's why I actually had did that little song and just never got around to sending it out. You know how that goes. So, but I figured it was good to play now because, just thinking about how losing your mind. It's time to lose your mind. Basically, I'm saying it's time to lose your thoughts that keep you kind of slowed up a little bit and realize all of the different things that you be or all the different things that you are from all those different deities and archetypes that I named. That's everything that you are. You don't necessarily have to relinquish your power to them because they're the power that you're supposed to have authority over. That's why you can take them on and be them in that sense, So that's the idea there. So I just thought that ditty, that little piece would be significant to what it is that we're speaking about on this day. So now let's get to the ugly. Let's get to the ugly. All right. So again, if we understand that, like again, we have the energy of Oduduwa representing omnipresent. I'm sorry, excuse me, omnipotency, power, and we have the energies such as Obatala and Orumila as always depicted as male energies. Even though there's an androgyny there, but predominantly male. We understand that these are primarily energies. Like Obatala's omnipresence, and Orumila is all knowing. Omniscience. So we start to get the sense that, okay, the actual doing and the actual movement, like Oshun and all these different energies that actually make things happen, are the active forces on the planet. You see, there's always a beautiful interplay, between the male and female. Always one thinks they're being left out. when you start speaking or sharing different information, they say, well, and we can't leave out the sisters or we can't leave out the brothers, but people don't sometimes really take time to invest the scholastics into learning how energy manifests and energy moves sometimes, so like I often said, and I even said in my book, this is a man's world, but you have to kind of learn to um you have to almost like, especially if you're listening to my words or you're reading my books, there's times you have to take me very literal. Understand that I tend to speak in an abstract way. I know that. I know I get a little space cadetish, but everything I'm saying is true. And it's literal. And it's so literal that sometimes it sounds like poetry It's just that literal. Like if I say, "Oh, beautiful black sun, shine your beautiful light on us," right? It sounds like poetry, but the sun is black. But it's black, but it shines light at the same time. You see, so I'm being literal, but it sounds like I'm being poetic. You see, so like when I said in my book, it's a man's world. This world, because there's many worlds. This world is a man's world because this is the world of definition. What defines is masculine energy. Okay, what loosens itself through the production of chaos, or through the power of chaos is feminine energy. So that's the realm of heaven. It's that unity of chaos. You see, so it's you have to almost take it in a literal sense, right? So again, if we go through so many different traditions, we start to see that often it is the feminine force or the feminine energy that actually provides the power to get things done. Even if even if you look in your holy Bible Babel, you'll see that there's this concept of again a Trinity, a Father, a Son, and a ghost. I have to laugh. Sometimes I laugh too because I'm like, it's just like looking at slick little children trying to, stinking like peanut butter, and hiding and having peanut butter on their shirt, talking about, "No, I didn't stick my fingers in the peanut butter and eat it." You almost have to laugh. So it's the same thing. Sometimes when I hear some of these things that certain societies do, it's I laugh. It's like, really? You still really? You know. So the Holy Ghost, really? He's gonna kill her. He's gonna kill her off, make her turn into a ghost. So we know, of course, the Holy Spirit itself, is feminine in that sense. But you get the understanding again that God the Father is thought. God repented. Repented means what? He thought. He changed his mind. God the Son is the Word of God. Jesus came to give us the Word. And then you have God the Mother or the Holy Spirit, which is actually the one that gets things done. Have people rolling underneath the pews and doing backflips and diving into the baptismal pool and then jumping right back out and hanging from the chandeliers just because they caught the Spirit. You see, so you start to understand that in so many traditions that feminine presence represents the active force of power, the active and manifesting power, the moving power of the cosmos, really. And then you start to understand, okay, if we're a microcosmic representation of the macrocosmic representation, then our whole systems internally work the same way, right? So man is the authority, woman is the power, right? It's going to get ugly. So in that sense, then, in order for soulless individuals on the planet to control a populace or to rob a populace of their power because they don't have power of their own, essentially they have to rob them of their women. In order to rob the power of a certain group, you have to co-opt their women. Like I've said before, there's an old saying that the missionaries used to say, "Oh, beautiful, religious saying that the early missionaries going to the continent of Africa used to say," and they used to say, "Castrate the man so you can rape the woman." All those beautiful, soulful, Holy Ghost filled, fire baptized Protestant missionaries would bring their beautiful selves onto the continent of Africa. And the saying that they used to say amongst themselves was, "Castrate the man so you can rape the woman." That old time religion, good enough for my mother, my sister, father, brother, is good enough for me. All right now? So you start to understand here then that your power was taken from you because your authority was co-opted. Now, just think about this for a second. I know it's not a pleasant thing to think about, especially if you're a woman and you're listening. to think about that maybe someone is lording over you who is not ascended to or in lineage with the actual authority and power of your particular group, that it may be coming from somewhere else. I know that may not feel the most comfortable to think about, or the idea, but I tell you, I'm not making this up. I see it every day, and so do you. Right? Um, a lot of the problems that we have in our community stem from this very alien presence of a certain spirit that seems to always drive a wedge between us. It's always something, you can feel it standing in the way of us actually coming together as man and woman. You see? And again, let me rewind you for those who came in later after the break. Power that's manifested on this plane is manifested through the body as it's being directed from the authority of the soul. And if one does not have a soul, then that means they're unable to direct the power of the body. So they have to emulate it. They have to co-opt it in some way. They have to almost steal the soulful who have the power. You see, so there's two ways we could go about doing that. We could co-opt the minds, as this is what I talked about last Sunday. You can co-opt the minds of the authorities. Like sometimes you find that in churches or in mosques, even, where the right up down to the leadership is co-opted by the soulless overlords. You see, so if the leadership is co-opted, then they're gonna direct and guide the body to wherever it needs to go. So again, to understand, the man is the head, the woman is the body. The man is the head, the woman is the body. Let's make it real simple. The man is the head, the woman is the body. So without the body, the man or the head has no power. Without the head, the body or the woman has no direction. Real simple. Okay. Now, if you look within a lot of times, our societies, and I'm saying our societies, the exact example that I just gave you is completely flip-flopped. We think that the men should do everything and that the women should be bossy and present all of their demands in it, or sometimes they do it through nagging and whining, because we've been taught that that's a natural thing, that you're just supposed to nag and antagonize people. We've been taught that by an alien culture. But we're taught that the man is supposed to break his back and do everything and keep his mouth shut and suffer in silence. And the woman is supposed to, basically be preserved and curated, do very little, but, be sensitive and so in tune that she tells the man what the family needs. That's total BS. And then, you have a lot of people who have never even been to the continent, and they'll say things like, well, that's how we did it back in Africa. Where'd you do that back in Africa? And who's this we? You talking French? Who's we? You see, because societies are not built that way. Societies are not built by going against nature. We already spoke about that in a previous show about seeing the entire cosmos as a body. And when you go against the natural function working of the body, you create sickness. So it's not just enough to romanticize the idea and say, well, that's what we did back home, when you don't even know. You can apply that to anything because you're talking about a huge place with a vast culture. But I tell you one thing, we're pro-nature. We are pro-nature. We're not anti-nature. You see? So this is really the deep, ugly part. Now, I know probably 60 to 70% of the people are not even going to hear what I just said because the programming is so key in there. The programming is so deep that I have to say some of these things like 50 times. This is going to turn into a PSA at some point. But I have to say these things a lot because your programming says ignore that part. Ignore that part. Cue in back in when he starts talking about spirits and stuff, but ignore what he just said. So then I'll say something like that, and I guarantee you by Monday's show, by tomorrow, there'll be an argument or something in the chat room where someone is exhibiting the exact poison that I just spoke about today. Exact. Somebody who was listening in the chat room today, who I can see, that I see evidence that, no, you heard me just speak about that, they're going to do the same exact thing tomorrow. I bet you anything, because of the poison. So then I'll have to say it again, and I'll say it again, and I'll say it again. And then this is what it will turn into eventually. Somebody will eventually get a consultation by me or something, and they'll say something like this: well, I know how you feel about relationships. You go hard on us. You know, you talk about women don't have their own mind. You see, through derision, through derision and insult, they try to deflect from what I'm saying. That's what it eventually, after you hear it so many times, instead of accepting it, your overlords tell you to do that. Make it my opinion. Make it what Chief just thinks. Not that Chief is the truth. Forget Chief speaks the truth. F that. He is the truth. See, I tell women even that I deal with, don't come at me with that, you know, well, Chief, let me hear your truth. You'll get broken up behind that. Get lost. We're done. We're through. And I've done that before. Someone said that before, a woman condescendingly, and giggled at that while she was laughing. Okay, share your truth. I was like, we're done. Blocked the number and everything. You ain't got no respect for me. I see what this is. I already see it all already. You know, so sometimes it's those small little things. Now, you guys listening to that may say, well, damn, he's extreme, because you don't hear what's really being said. Like I said, you got to listen to the math. And the math will give you combinations where a lot of times you'll say, okay, well, if I say this, if I say that, if I say that, say that, this will be the response. So you know what? It's best just to stop now. You know, because certain people who start out a certain way, you already get a sense of what they're ready to receive or not. You know, it's like if you're eating a certain meal, it's a healthy meal, and somebody come over and points at it and says, ew, what's that? Ugh, you going to eat that? You're not going to be able to start talking to them about alkaline water. You're just not. First, you got to talk to them about just having manners, decorum. You don't point at people's food and say yuck. And then you might look at their age. You might be talking to a 40-year-old person. You 40 years old and you doing that over somebody's food? Whoa, we got to go back to basics. So they might say, well, no, just tell me why you're eating it. Explain it to me. No, I'm not going to do that, because you ain't even ready to hear that part. Let's just talk about how you behave when somebody's eating. Let's start there. Who raised you? You might have to take them back to their childhood. You see? Now, some of you have inboxed me before. Like I said, you've gotten that response. You may have asked me a question rude, been out of pocket, because again, you don't see me as an authority, because somebody else is already your authority. Somebody beat me to the punch. That's what happened. So when I start talking, it becomes, okay, Chief, what is it? You know, what's your opinion? What do you think about it? What's your suggestion on it? I don't give you no suggestion. If I'm talking to a woman, I'm giving you directions. If you don't follow it, I stop talking to you. That's how that works. But see, when you hear all those things, like this is another probably thumbs down video, by the way. But when you start talking like that, people say, oh my God, he's misogynistic and chauvinistic. Where'd you get those terms and ideas from? Who told you to respond like that? Where'd you get that from? You see, so again, if we understand that the man is the head and the woman is the body, we understand a very basic thing. You need your head, don't you? You need your body, don't you? So if we start to understand those basic principles like that, and we understand that we have other groups of people who are roaming around the earth, and not just groups, I mean, just individuals in every group who have no soul. But because the world, we live in a world obsessed with power and doing things and getting things done. They say, well, dag, man, I have no power to get anything done. But, you know, I got some ambition. I definitely got some ambition. It's things I want to get done, you know, but I have no power to get it done. I have to figure out a way to wrestle the power from these other groups of men. I have to entice their power away. You see, and then I have to make their authority irrelevant. Well, how do they gain their authority? Through their lineage. So what do? Cut their lineage. Make it so that no one can find out anything beyond their grandfather or their great grandfather. They don't know their original language. They don't know their original food, culture. I will make them a raceless, cultureless group of people. And then I'll come in co-opting their story and make it seem like I have this long lineage. And then that's how I'll attract their power to me. You see? And you know what's such a crazy thing? Women are attracted to power. Women are attracted to power. You can't get around that, man. Women are attracted to power. Half to you brothers out there who can't get your wife on the same page with you because you don't have any power. You know, she ain't trying to hear you. You know, if she goes into a job every day or lives within a culture where she sees more structure than what you're able to present to her, and she sees true power to affect things and get things done, and you start talking about, yeah, you know, I'm trying to bring this culture to the family, and man, you ain't get up out of here. Because all I really care about is some power. Now, whoever has the power, this is the truth is, women will absorb themselves into their system. That's what you're dealing with right now. So women will have locks and all that. She's conscious, cowrie shells and all that, and will be a straight up Negro in costume because she's going to absorb herself into the dominant power. Now, that's just the nature of women. That's not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, that's not something you need to change in them. It's something you got to change about you because you're not competing. So she's going to go to who has the structure. How many brothers I've spoken to, you guys, I've called and said, hey, man, you know, do you do rituals with your family? You telling me about problems you're having at home. They said that, nah, we ain't, you know, nah, we don't do that, though. Nah, we be listening to your shows, though. Nah, I gave my wife to read your book, though. Duh. So what you think she's going to do, though? She's going to go to where the structure is. Now, here's the deep part about it. Here's where it gets slippery. Women are attracted to power, but women already hold the power. Duh. Sisters, you don't need to run the power, though. You need to look who has the authority of lineage. That's where you need to be moving towards. That's what you need to be running towards. Not those who have the emulation of power, because what you're forgetting is that you empowered them. Though. You're the one who empowered those individuals. You see? Again, the head is the seat of authority. The body is the seat of power. Women are the body. Men are the head. You see? And it's not always your man who's your head. It might not be the man you have 4 or 5 children with, who you lay in the bed with every night. That may not actually be your power. Or, excuse me, your authority. That's what say a lot of times there's alien thoughts and alien ideas that are seeping into relationships and marriages, and then we're wondering why we just can't seem to make it work. Because come on, let's keep it real. Women, what's your huge complaint about all the guys out here? No direction. We already know it. Come on, we've been hearing this forever. No direction in life. You got to come up with all the plans because they never have an idea of what they want to do. They don't know what they want. They don't have any culture. They're not teaching the children anything. They don't teach you anything, right? That's number. If we were doing, what's the show, Family Feud, you know, the People's Survey says that's the number one complaint. Even beyond, he's a liar. He cheated on me. This, that. Because honestly, women don't really be sweating that stuff as much as you might think. But because, you know, look at basketball people. If you have money, if you have wealth, and you have an authority that comes to you because you're a part of a larger fraternal organization, you know, women will accept a lot of different things, or let's say tolerate. They'll tolerate a lot of different things. But if you have all of that and you ain't got any direction, you got no ambition, you got no goals, you got nothing going for yourself, you have no type of structure, then she just, you know, she just doesn't get it for you. You know, she's not going to get with you on that. Now, men, what's our biggest complaint? Really simple. They don't listen. It's the biggest complaint. When you try to tell them to do something, they want to be rebellious. They want to fight you at every turn. They want to try to make you prove everything you're saying to them, which creates a huge hesitancy in the family because you got to sit here and fight with her for everything that you want to do. Especially you're fighting with someone who probably has no idea as to what you're talking about, but there's just a mechanism in her that just says immediately, as soon as you start talking, she starts talking and she starts talking over you, or she starts disagreeing with you. Right? Number one, number one complaint. Yeah, like Brother Tareen just said, rebellion. Right. The sisters are rebellious, and the dudes are lukewarm. Now, I told you this before in another segment, but I know a lot of times people ignore they don't want to hear certain things. The one thing that would actually bring you together and actually empower you, of course, is going to be the main thing that a soulless society is going to attack. If she listens to this man who's connected to his lineage of authority and he connects back to his power, they will raise up their communities again, get in the way. If he has direction and actually connects to his lineage of authority, then he'll attract women to him who want that authority. Now here's the secret. For all you melanoid women, those might not be melanoid women. Those may be Caucasian women. Those may be Asian women. Those may be Indian women. Those may be Arab women. Because women in general are attracted to, they think it's power, but they're actually attracted to authority. You see, they're attracted to authority. And the ones who are attracted to you, sisters, melanoid, indigenous, and all the same, are typically, men of any group. Men, we want power, period. Because we need to be able to compete with other men. So we need the power. And I want you to understand when I'm saying we and I, and I'm not necessarily talking about myself, so I'm speaking in general terms for the sake of pushing forward the actual concept that I'm sharing with you. But there are some men who are not lusting for power. Of course, there are some families that do have that balance, right? There are some men who say, well, my number one complaint may be this, she wears granny drawers. And she may say, my number one complaint with him is he ain't got no money. I'm tired of working 4 jobs. So, I understand there are exceptions in that sense. But, ultimately, what we're speaking about here, again, is how the head and the body are separated from one another and how the power in your community is co-opted by others. You see, because essentially what you're dealing with, even if, like I said, if you look at Bible, Bibble, Babble law, right? You're looking. Let's take it to the concept of the garden. Who did the serpent speak to? Of course, right? Because I'm not going to go to Adam. Adam already has his connection to his lineage and his authority. I'm going to go to where his power sits, and I'm going to see if I can co-opt her mind, which he did. Because remember, the instructions were, do not eat of the apple. If you eat of the apple, you will surely die. Then Eve comes back. Well, not the apple or the fruit, excuse me. Eve comes back and says, we were told not to eat of the tree of good and life, of knowledge and evil, because if we do, she said, lest we die. Now, lest, L-E-S-T, is an old word, but it means might. We might die. No, that's not what you were told. You were told that you will die. So then the serpent puts an idea in her head. Nah, player, come on, man. He's just trying to keep you a slave. He's trying to keep you from being free. Don't you want to be like a god? You over here like a robot in this garden. He just comes in the evening to talk to you and stuff like that. And, and he comes into the cool of the evening. Well, your name is Eve, ain't it? Yeah, my name is Eve, Daddy. And he might say, well, the cool of the evening, he's talking about your vagina. When God comes and talks to you, he's talking to you in your vagina, the cool of evening. So he just come in here after work to basically hit it, smoke some weed with you and tell you again, hey man, don't touch that tree. And then you don't know where he goes off to when he leaves the garden. It's messed up. Don't you want to be out there with him? doing the stuff that he does, don't you want to be a god too? You see, so the external alien force will co-opt the mind, but then you have this sucker on the side called Adam, Red Earth. The Dom is sitting there saying, I should probably say something, but I ain't gonna say nothing because I don't want her to go off. I don't want Eve to go off. And last time she went off, she, climbed up that doggone mango tree and was firing down mangoes at me all around the garden. We got in so much trouble. So he stays cool because he's weak. He doesn't have that direction. Then he even eats of the fruit because he's like, well, I don't want to be left here alone because I'm dealing with a scarcity model. He may not make me another chick. This might be the last poom poom I ever see in my life. You see? So you're talking about a mindset here that you see across so much law. But even if we take it from that same exact book, right? We have this concept that ye shall know the truth and the truth shall make you free. Okay. Now, what essentially we're saying there, it's talking about authority makes you free. Authority is the path to freedom. Because notice it didn't say, you will have the truth and the truth will make you free. Or the truth exists and it will make you free. You will know the truth. Knowledge. You will have knowledge of the truth. And knowledge of the truth, in most translations it says set you free, but that's not the right word. If you go back to the original translation, it's make. It will make you free. So there's already acknowledgement there that you came here and there's certain adversaries, certain opposition that you're going to have to deal with. There may even be certain levels of bondage. But by knowing the truth, well, how do we get knowledge of the truth? It's handed down to us through our lineage. You see, it doesn't just exist and sit out there and then we just have it. And then now we're free. I'm free because I'm woke. You know that stupid saying that everybody's saying now? I'm woke as F-U-C-K. You see, almost embarrassed to say you conscious. So I got to make it into something ignorant because, I just can't stand up. It's like when a guy or even a sister wants to get with a brother, he'll say anything, but he'll put LOL at the end of it to maybe give him that slight disclaimer. Y'all want to come over there and beat it up so bad. LOL. Y'all want to come over there and I want to taste you. LOL. Why don't you just be my wife? LOL. You see? Sneak stealing, sneak creeping, afraid to really just come forth and say, this is what it is. This is what I want. Well, remember, like I said earlier, you have to declare and speak the truth in order to wield the power. Because what's the lineage? Even if we look at the Holy Bible Babel, we look at that mythology, and then it's existed so many different places. So we don't have to just use that per se, but one thinks it, one says it, one does it. Right? That's the lineage. One thinks it, one says it, one does it. So there's an actual order. So you have to actually be able to speak out loud your authority. You have to be able to speak the truth out loud. And the truth or the mystery about certain things in life will give you authority in those particular areas, which gives you power in those areas. If you can't speak the truth of Ogun, Chango, Oshun, Oya, Ochosi, Orisha, Oko, Azaka, any of them, if you can't speak their truth, you can't wield their power. I don't care how many pieces of incense you burn and how much Florida water you buy. And how many cigars you smoke. You can smoke till your whole face is green. Your teeth are brown. You ain't gonna be able to wield their power until you can speak their truth. That's just what it is. You see, there has to come that declaration. Worlds are created through sound, through speech. You see, so in the same instance, you think about that divine lineage that takes place, and how that can be disrupted by those who are ravenous for power and can look at your lineage and say, well, wow, man, their women have power. They're able to achieve certain things, especially if you look at polygynous societies. Told you it's going to get ugly. It's all the stuff y'all don't want to hear. I know it. I know it. You might have a man who has 5 women, 4 women, 3 women, 2 women, even 10 women. It's a lot of power, right? That's a lot of power. Because I gave you guys before the triangle model. There's a triangle model. So you have the man at the top. He's the pinnacle of the triangle, the little capstone. He's the capstone. Now we look in the indigenous or the melanoid societies today, especially in urban areas. What do we see? An incomplete pyramid. We see a pyramid with no macabre stone or no capstone. There's nothing on top. And what do they have on top when you look on a dollar bill? An eye. Big brother overseeing society. That's who's controlling your power. You got the 72 bricks in the pyramid representing the 72 different paths of Ra. 72 ways to get to the eye. Bull crap. You got to understand the magic wand that's in your hand when you're holding a dollar in your hand. And you talking about, I don't believe in that occult stuff. You got a pocket full of occultism. So yeah, again, the plan here is to co-opt the body. You see, co-opt the body by presenting a more lineated structure, and to remove the lineage from him. Now we have control of the community, but we can use the community resources for our own good. Now, when you have a situation like polygyny, like I said, you have 3, 4, 5 different women, and they're coming under the authority of one, and it makes the entire family stronger because he's able to channel. I gave this whole model before of, men rule through force, women rule through power. Well, what do I mean by force? Because it takes, you have different levels of energy. The highest energy inside of a family are children. Highest, but not necessarily the strongest energy, but the highest energy. That's why it's hard to get children to sit still and stuff. It takes force. Sometimes you gotta hold you gotta pick them up. Like when you got a baby that's running around all the time, sometimes you gotta pick them up. Come here. And they cry and they squirm to get loose, but you gotta hold them. They got high energy. Well, then second to that is the woman. She has high energy, right? So it has to be corralled in. It has to be brought in and boundaried and contoured in. You let them still do their thing, but you say, okay, we're going to create some boundaries by a man who has the strength to do it. Some men don't have the strength for it. Just because they talk it, they may not actually have it. You see, some women don't have the power. Just because you're a woman doesn't automatically mean that you have power. It doesn't work that way. Because again, we're talking about divine principles. You see. So we're going to get deeper into this. This is part 2 of this whole talk. We're going to get deeper into how it plays out in our physical worlds and lives in our segment next Sunday on authority. All right. And plus my voice is really, it's on the brink of me to, start whistling while I'm talking. But so yeah, thank you for listening. This has been Chief Yuya with another Chief Speaks. And like I said, because my lady's getting ready to come on about 20 seconds. If you're not a member of the Dual House, sign up, take a class. If you're not a member of the Anu Life Global Ministry, sign up for the ministry. Be a part of what we're doing. All right. And think about what was taught to you today as it pertains to authority and how you may not be connected to a body and you may not be connected to a head, or you might be connected to a head that's not yours, that's invisible. 90 seconds, that might be connected to someone else's society, and you're just being used for your power and not for the benefit of your own community. Like I said, even when you go back home, you may say, hey, I'm willing to invest my power into this situation because it's for my own good. So my 60-second mark is coming up. There's a distinct, here we go. 60 seconds. There's a distinct difference between, like I say, being a financial concubine for someone's alien economy and being a mate and consort to someone who's working within your own community and your own family economy. There's a huge difference. Remember, empowering your oppressors is not your patriotic duty. Okay, you don't have to do that. And men do not have to give up their greatest genius and their greatest authority and lineage to any system that's oppressing them, again, as a need or as a benefit of inclusion. 10-second mark. 10 seconds. All right, cool. Now she's out. So just give that some thought, okay, on your day today. How we may be giving up. Like I said, we're gonna dig deeper into this. I know it's an ugly topic, that's why I'm tipping on it a little bit, and then we're gonna get deeper into it. But just try to listen to it and think about it objectively. If you need to go back and listen to the things that were said, just really listen objectively. Don't, I know again, a lot of times when I say certain things, in order to disregard what it is that I'm saying, and in order to minimize it, you have to make it my opinion. Okay. That's foolish. I would advise you not to do that. That's not a wise move. Okay. I'm not speaking my opinion. I'm telling you how the world works. And the truth is, some of us kind of might see, some things that you may not see yet. There's always something to learn. There's always something to know, so don't always be so quick to shut things down because they don't feel good, or because, there's things inside of you saying, no, that's not it. We saw that in the chat room, even this strong, little beefs going back and forth, and you'll start to see that the beefs that happen a lot of times are a product of that very thinking. Why is it that women are always getting so, let me just say it like this, melanoid women are always getting so sassy? Why are they always so rude all the time? And particularly rude towards melanoid men. Why is that? Before you just say that's just how they are, you got to understand that there's something that's controlling their very movements. They're the body, they're the power, they're the chaos. There's a different authority that stepped in before you got there because you took too long to wake up. When she was a teenager, when she was in her formative years, and she needs someone to kick some information to her, all you was doing was looking at her booty and trying to pierce the hymen. That's where your mind was. So now someone else came in, saw the value, and said, "I'm gonna take this power." And you're Johnny come lately now. You see, but why is that always the approach? To get rude, to get nasty. There's a reason why they inherently don't respect you. They'll make up reasons. I don't respect you because men, they always speak in general terms. It'll be ad hominem statements that don't really apply to the situation. That's how you know it's programming. And males do the same exact thing. Why is it a lot of times when you're dealing with them, there's a fear. And because of the fear, you become hostile because you're afraid of them. See, a lot of guys won't tell you that. I'm going to tell you, a lot of guys are actually afraid of women. Afraid of females. Let me put it that way. And when I say afraid, I don't mean afraid like because y'all are so powerful and all. It ain't none of that. It's from the programming. They have mothers who were bullies and very offensive and very abusive. But as males, we're not allowed to talk about the abuse we receive from women. We can't bring that up. So they develop a fear. Because again, remember, if you've taken on the authority in the mind of your overlord, and your overlord might be soulless, and their job is to castrate the male, what do you think you're going to do? What do you think your marching orders are? To castrate the male. So when you have sons, what do? You sissify them. You beat down all the manhood in them. And then when a man comes along and wants to reinvigorate it in him, you get rid of the man. You say he's too rough, or he's unloving, or this or that, or I got rid of the father because he beat my son. He beat him. Well, yeah, son probably needed it. That's his pops. His pops understands what he's going to be dealing with in the world. You see? So, I'm just saying, and I'm not condemning anyone. I want you to really understand that I didn't just start doing this yesterday. So I know where the source of the problem is. And even if I did have anger, I know where to direct my anger. Okay. So I'm not directing any condemnation towards the victims, so I'm speaking about your victimization right now. Those of you who are disrespectful, rude, you guys who are too bitchy, you females who are too bitchy, who are disrespectful and nasty and rebellious and hard-headed, you guys who are limp-wristed and sissified and have no direction and just overall just goofy and corny and ain't really doing nothing, you're victims. All that stuff that I just listed came as a result of your victimization. That's what I'm speaking to. So just try to hear it objectively before you think someone's picking on you. And a lot of times you only think that because those voices inside are telling you to think that. But you know your brother loves you. All right, that has been our segment. And I will see you all tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Monday, for our early dawning drive. Okay. Don't forget also you have the women's call every Monday at 8 p.m. And I trust that you sisters are building on things that are progressive and not just running around like a body with no head. All right. Until next time. Peace.